guys, the Curious Owl here, and for this Top 5 Wednesday, the topic is the best books you've read so far in the year 2018, as we are now officially just over the halfway mark through 2018, and I can't believe it, oh my gosh, in like a few days, I am turning 21 years old, and it is really weird to think about. And then at the end of 2018, I will have graduated from college. So 2019 is going to be a really strange year, and it's really nerve-wracking to say the least that we are already through 2018, because that means there's a lot of impending doom coming my way, and I don't quite know how to handle it. But let us, go away from that and push that all back into the back of our minds and focus on these 5 books that I love the most so far this month, or this year. So, coming in at number 5, and I actually have this dedicated in, lowest to highest here. The number 5 spot is going to The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. I listened to the audiobook of this in about April, about the middle of April, I think. And I had heard so many good things about this book from so many different people growing up, and especially in BookTube. And I listened to it knowing that it was going to be a little harder for me to be able to sit and read the physical book if I had a chance to get my hands on it. And I gotta tell you, it was probably one of the best experiences I had ever, gone through, because the audiobook not only was incredibly atmospheric and really kind of set the tone for the story, but the story and the content itself was so hard-hitting and was heart and gut-wrenching, and it was so difficult to move through the book for the best reasons, and that's because of the content that's involved with it. If you're not familiar with what The Book Thief is about, it's placed during World War II, during the Holocaust time, where there's this girl named Liesl Memminger, and she essentially is living with this foster family who are taking care of her because her mother has gone away and her younger brother dies due to sickness on the way to this foster home. And it's basically just her trying to live her life through World War II and the things that she kind of comes across during it. And the cool thing is that it's all narrated by a character who is described as Death himself. And so there's a lot of interesting kind of commentary on the idea of death coming and taking the souls of people who die during the Holocaust and taking care of them and helping them move on into the next life or whatever it is that they have. And it was just one of those stories where, you have to know that going into the story it is going to be sad, because I think if you go into it with any other expectations, you are going to have your soul crushed. And knowing that the book was going to be sad for me, it still crushed my soul so much, because I just could not imagine being placed in the scenario that Liesl was and trying to figure out what even is going on with the world and trying to figure out, things that are just happening in front of your eyes and you're not quite sure how to handle it. It just was so hard to even imagine, as someone who is several generations after that it was just gut-wrenching. The book that is taking the 4th spot so far as my 4th favorite book for the year is the audiobook for The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis. Again, this is a really gut-wrenching story because this deals a lot with the idea of rape and the kinds of ideas of it being in small towns, especially, where, everyone knows everyone, but nobody talks about things like rape and how, there are things like sexual assault that go unnoticed because there are people in small towns who believe that somebody is asking for it if they're drinking or they're dressing a certain way or they're acting in certain ways to get attention. And this novel challenges all those ideals by discussing them, especially in a small town setting. And being from a small town myself, I really understood a lot of the mentality that was put in this novel, because it's mentality that I have seen in my own hometown. And that's not to say that I've had that same mentality. It's more along the lines of there are adults in this town or even teenagers in this town who have this mentality that is absolutely disgusting and really hard to deal with, that it made the story so much more relatable and understandable. And it also really just brought to light some really good points that I think people need to understand when it comes to things like sexual assault and rape, and the fact that, there are people who get attacked like this and they don't know how to deal with it, as there is a character who does end up being sexually assaulted and nearly raped, and she doesn't quite know how exactly to handle all of it. And so it touches on so many different aspects when it comes to this, and it was really hard to listen to at times because of that, but I think it was also really well balanced with this idea of challenging the ideas that were presented in it. Taking the number 3 spot is Beautiful Chaos by Kami Garcia and Margaret Stohl, the 3rd book in the Beautiful Creatures series. I just finished reading this, and I have a review for it that I just put up. This is part of a reread series I am doing, if you're not aware of the Beautiful Creatures series, as I read this book originally when I was in high school, and I reread it for the first time now in probably about 5 or 6 years, and I fell in love with it all over again, basically, because the thing was I felt all of the same emotions that I remember feeling when I was in high school reading this, and the ending especially, I remember feeling like my heart was broken at the end of it the first time I read it, and when I finished it again just recently, I again felt completely heartbroken about it because of what happened. And I feel like that really holds a testament to how much this book is in terms of how emotional it is and how it affects a reader, because especially if you've read the first 2 books in the series, you kind of really start to root for these characters, and to see things kind of come to a head the way they do breaks your heart. And I just fell in love with this all over again, and so far it has become the favorite for the series, but I still have the 4th and final book in the main series to read, so it's possible this could be beat out by the 4th book, but as it stands now, for this TBR, or for this Top 5 Wednesday especially, it's one of my favorites. And then taking the 2nd and 1st spots are going to be 2 books within the same series, and that is An Ember in the Ashes and A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir, both books in the Ember in the Ashes series. I read the audiobook for An Ember in the Ashes in about late April, early May, I think, and I fell in love with this story so quickly. I just loved this world, and I loved Laia and Elias's characters. I just fell in love with this idea about these characters and their problems and the things that they are going through, and I really just was so surprised how much I enjoyed it, because I thought with this being a high fantasy and it being super hyped on BookTube that it was going to let me down, and it did not let me down in the slightest. I am so in love with it. And then reading A Torch Against the Night just recently in June, this one is the number 1 favorite so far of the year, because it is so heartbreaking. You can sense the theme with this Top 5 Wednesday, I'm just gonna say. This was so heart-wrenching and just so twisty and turny, and I just didn't know how to react to certain things that were involved with this. And when I finished this book on ebook through my library, I went and bought my own copy, and I bought also the copy of A Reaper at the Gates, which just came out, and I just cannot wait to devour A Reaper at the Gates soon, because I know it's going to kill me on the inside, but I love these characters so much, and I love this world so much, and I want to see things get better, and that's what I'm hoping for going into A Reaper at the Gates, but I'm pretty sure it is going to still kill me on the inside, but I'm okay with it. So there you guys go. Those are the top 5 favorite books of the year so far. It is entirely possible this will change by the end of the year. I'm going to have a whole top favorites video probably at the end of 2018 about my favorites. But as it stands now, A Torch Against the Night is the number 1. However, currently I am reading Renegades by Marissa Meyer, and I am absolutely loving it at the moment. So it's possible that A Torch Against the Night could be beat out by Renegades, but I'm not sure as of yet, as I'm only like 200 pages into Renegades, and I still have a long way to go before the end, so we shall see. But just know, it is being challenged. A Torch Against the Night is being challenged to a duel, and we shall see if it wins or if it loses. So thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock, and I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!